Hey guys, what is up? This is Matthew DSME once again, and welcome back to another movie review, aka After I Saw. It is time for me to finally talk about Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I am so sorry it's been nearly a week since this movie came out. Like you saw in my previous video, I was on vacation. The only reason I was able to see Lilo and Stitch first is because that movie was an hour shorter and things went so much better than I initially planned, so I was able to squeeze that in. And I really wanted to see this movie when I got back home, but I had to work on Memorial Day and then the day after, but I have the day off today, so I was finally able to spare some time and finally check this movie out. And now I finally get to talk about it with you guys. This is supposedly the final Mission Impossible movie, though we all know that movie franchises, they never end nowadays. This is where Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt, is out to take down the entity that is supposedly going to launch and destroy all of mankind, supposedly, while also trying to take down Gabriel, the man responsible for the entity, in this supposed final reckoning. When it comes to the Mission Impossible movies, I enjoy every single one of them, except for the second movie. The second movie I don't really like all that much. And when it came to Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, that was the movie that pretty much brought the franchise to a new high, as each installment after that would get better and better and better. I don't think Dead Reckoning Part 1 is as good as Fallout or Rogue Nation. It might be almost as good as Ghost Protocol, but Fallout to me was a masterpiece and one of the best action movies I've ever seen in my entire life. And because this is supposedly the final installment, it had me thinking that this was probably going to be the all-time greatest one. Almost in the same way that Harry Potter Deathly Hallows Part 2 is considered to be the best of the Harry Potter movies. And now that I've seen the movie, do I feel bad that I didn't get to see it sooner? Do I feel like I should get a time machine and go back and watch the movie on the very first day that it came out? Is this the ultimate conclusion? Is this truly the all-time greatest of all time when it comes to the Mission Impossible series? Not really. However, it's not a bad movie. It's just a bit underwhelming. At least during the first half of the movie. The first half of the movie, now, you hear me complain a lot about specific movies having long run times. But sometimes I feel like a lot of them can be earned. And in this modern time, there have been movies to earn their very lengthy run times. RRR, John Wick Chapter 4, Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, all of which I have given perfect scores. But with this, it definitely shows its runtime. Now look, I'm not going to get into any major spoilers, but there are just some times to the movie where, at least during the first act, I felt like the movie just kind of, it just dragged on, especially since most of the first act is repeated clips of what happened in the previous few movies, or almost pretty much all the previous movies, and some of those clips tend to be repeated, especially when characters from the franchise return and they have to show off specific clips. And it just got very repetitive, and it just has me thinking, like, I get that they're trying to kind of tell the people who haven't seen the franchise before, but there hasn't been a part to the previous movies where they have to dump a bunch of exposition because other people haven't seen all the movies. But for people who have seen all the movies, like myself, it just got very slow. And now, look, not all the first act was bad. There's something that happened with a specific character that I think was portrayed very well, and it's something that I like what they did. And after the first half of the movie, the second half is truly where the movie shines, and is something that I wish happened more during the first act. Because the first act is just like, okay, can we just speed this up? Because this is the longest in the franchise, but there was a lot of moments throughout the movie that they could have really shaved off, because we get it. Now, that's not to say that the rest of the movie doesn't still have some of those moments, because sometimes, even during specific parts of the second half, they do have some of those clips, just not as often. But the second act is truly where the movie shines the most, for the most part. In the climax of the movie, which I'm not going to bring up whatsoever, I do feel like if it does end that way, it's not a bad way to end it off. I feel like that's truly what will satisfy most viewers when it comes to the movie having an end. And when it comes to the action, it is all there. There is this very tense underwater sequence that will definitely bring in sense of claustrophobia for people who have claustrophobia and whatnot. It is just such a great sequence, and it doesn't feel like special effects whatsoever. It feels like a very tense water sequence that most of us would probably think, oh man, we hope that's not actually happening underwater and that's just a green screen effect or whatever. And there are elements to the movie where, of course, Tom Cruise is always doing his stunts, willing to get injured once in a while doing these stunts, making them as convincing as they are. There is, of course, the plane sequence that was seen in the trailer, and it definitely delivers. Except for one specific aspect where, if I bring it up, I'm just going to spoil it for you guys. So I recommend just going in for yourself, because it honestly gets kind of silly during one specific scene, but it's not in a way that I thought was funny. It was just like, what? But whatever. So yeah, I can say with all the Mission Impossible movies, this is by far the slowest one. And because it's the lengthiest one, it doesn't really help all that much. But nonetheless, this was still a damn good way to end off the franchise. I just wish that there would be more justice to this, especially since when it opens up, well, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but you pretty much understand what I'm saying at this point. So yeah, in the end, it's not a bad watch. I had fun with the action, though there was one action sequence that they kind of just shot away during the beginning, which I was all like, come on, this is Mission Impossible. Don't you want to show as much action as you possibly can? But when it does come to most of the other action sequences with the stunts and the underwater sequences and some of the gun sequences, it can be very entertaining and truly what we all love to see from the franchise, even if it doesn't have as much of it as some of the previous entries. But nonetheless, it's still a good way to conclude. Not a fantastic grand finale, but if this truly is the final mission, then mission accomplished. I just wish it accomplished the mission of being truly amazing. Because what Ghost Protocol did to revive the franchise is something that most people did not expect would be as amazing as it was. But afterwards, it just got bigger and bigger. But then it started getting a bit lower. Not by a little bit with the last movie, but with this movie, it was a little bit low. I don't even think this is better than most of the other movies to come out during... I don't think it's better than the 1996 film or even Mission Impossible 3. So, yeah, that's kind of a low. But, again, not a bad movie. I do recommend seeing it if you still want to have fun and you just love Mission Impossible and don't really care what happens. But, hey, there is stuff in this movie I do think is worth your time. Maybe not all of it, but still worth a lot of it. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and maybe subscribe for more. You can also follow me on Twitter or Instagram or maybe Blue Sky. Links in the description. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Word out.